Hello friend, welcome back to Seed and Sparrow Homestead. We're gonna be in the kitchen today. I've got some fun, festive recipes for us to try. These could be fun for just a Christmas morning breakfast, for brunch, to take to a family gathering if you have a holiday party, or really any time this holiday season. I don't think we have to reserve fancier foods for those big gatherings, but I think they'd make great edible like Christmas table centerpieces. So we're gonna do 3 recipes. One is a cinnamon roll, which I know sounds pretty basic, but we're gonna dress it up. We're gonna make it a gingerbread cinnamon roll, and then we're gonna shape it into a Christmas star, which I've done many times over. It's always a huge hit, really yummy, and really quite simple. The second one is a viral recipe that goes around pretty much every year. I'm sure many of you have seen it before. It is a puff pastry shaped Christmas tree, but you can make, like, there's endless variations. We're gonna do savory today. I'm gonna do pesto, ricotta cheese, and parmesan in there. Really simple, great way to get the kiddos involved. The last one is something I've been wanting to do for a few years. It looks stunning. Not super practical, but it's a Pavlova shaped Christmas tree. So it's like a baked meringue that we're gonna pipe out, and we're gonna make layers. And then in between the layers, we're gonna do some homemade orange curd and some whipped cream. I think we're also gonna candy some cranberries to add to it to decorate it up a little bit. Looks beautiful. I know it tastes delicious, but I've never done this before. We're doing it together, so it could be a total flop. I guess we'll find out. But I thought it'd be a fun thing to do and to take you guys along with me. So we're gonna get started, and I think I want to start with the Pavlova. So like I said, this Pavlova is just a meringue Christmas tree. This would also be great for the kiddos to get involved in assembling it and decorating it. For all you homeschool mamas out there, great home ec project. So the first thing we gotta do is make our meringue. So I was trying to research the best methods here for success, because like I said, I've never done this before. So the best thing is to use room temperature egg whites. And also it says the best is home gathered eggs if you have access to them. It says prepackaged eggs that have been sitting for a while don't always set up the greatest. Now, not saying you can't use them. It just said for the best success to use fresh eggs. So that's what I'm gonna do. My eggs, we don't wash them when they come in, so unless they're like super dirty, then they go in the fridge. But typically they don't get washed and they sit out, so they're already room temp. It does say to use caster sugar, which is just a super fine sugar. I have raw organic cane sugar here, so it's a little bit coarser, so I think I'm gonna run that through my coffee grinder a few times. Not to powder it, but to get it a bit finer than what it is. We're also gonna need some cornstarch and some white vinegar, and I'm gonna use some vanilla in that as well. So I'm gonna gather those ingredients, and we're gonna get working on that here in the mixer. All right, so hold that thought. I needed to get some things prepped before my meringue was ready to go. One of those here is I just have a baking sheet with some parchment on top. And is it gonna show up on camera? There you can see the circles that I have outlined. So those are gonna be my templates here for when I'm piping the meringue. You wanna make sure that you have a little bit of space, you know, in between each layer. We don't want a cylinder. Let me get measuring tape here and see. I used really random objects that I could find around my house. I used, hold on. Random circle cutter that I found. Then I used the top of a wide mouth mason jar. And then I used a really random thing, which is a smoke detector that I found in the junk drawer, and a little copper mold. Those were my templates. Let me see. Sorry, that was probably loud. Let me see what sizes these are. So the smallest one is about 2 inches. The next one is about 3.5, and then 5 and 7. So you know, use whatever you can find. I didn't feel like taking a whole lot of time to be super precise about it. That looks great to me. So that's my template, that's ready to go. I also needed to find my piping bags, and this is a star tip here. You don't have to pipe it. I'm doing it because it looked pretty to me and I know how to pipe. I don't know if I've ever said to you guys, I worked in a professional bakery for 5 years, somewhere in there, and I decorated cakes all day long, 12 hours a day. So this is not foreign to me. I'm gonna do this, but you can literally just scoop out the meringue and spread it around. You don't have to get fancy with it. I think pavlovas are kind of made to look rustic. Now, I mean, I'm not a pro baker or anything, but you make it however your heart desires. So I'm gonna get my star tip in here. I think I'm actually gonna open this star tip up a little bit. It's a bit too narrow for my liking. I just pushed a pen through it to open it up a little bit. So, whoops, that's all ready to go. Now we can make the meringue. All right, so the recipe I am following, where is the first page here? It says 2/3 cup of egg whites. It says anywhere from 5 to 6 large eggs at room temperature. So I guess I'm gonna separate out 5 and then measure that and see what we got. All right, let me wash hands. Oh, we have more though, just a little bit more than what we need. So I'll just put that to the side. I'll use that in another recipe. So the nice thing is we can use those egg yolks for our orange curd that we're going to make, and then anything extra that I have left over, I'll just throw into a dish to make some scrambled eggs for tomorrow morning's breakfast. No biggie. All right, so we got our egg whites. Now we place egg whites in the bowl of our stand mixer and beat fairly high speed. It says 8 here for 1.5 minutes. Okay, before I do that, I need to work on the sugar. I need to get that a bit finer. Okay, cleaned this guy up a bit, washed and dried. We need a total of 1.25 cup of fine sugar. So I know all that won't fit in here at one time, so I'm just gonna keep adding until I have enough. You guys see the difference here? See how coarse that is? This isn't quite powdered. It's still pretty grainy, but definitely much finer texture than this. That's what we want. Okay, 2/3 cup egg whites going in. We're gonna get this on speed 8 on my KitchenAid for about 1.5 minutes. Alright, it's been 1.5 minutes. Now we're gonna add in our super fine sugar, tablespoon at a time, while it is still running. So it's gonna take a minute or two here. Sugar's been added. Now we let it go for another 6 minutes. All right, it has been 6 minutes, so it says to take some and rub it between your fingers, and you should not feel any grit. And I feel a little bit, so we're gonna let it go just a little longer. we've got nice stiff peaks. I don't feel anything now. So to this, we're gonna add some cornstarch. We need, let's see here, 2.5 teaspoons cornstarch, or I know in some places it's just called corn flour. So let's see here. I'm gonna sprinkle this over the top. 1, 2.5. We're also gonna do 1.25 teaspoons of white vinegar. I'm gonna add in 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. We're gonna mix this up for about another 30 seconds. All right, now we are finished with the mixer. It should be glossy, have nice stiff peaks. It should not be grainy at all. What I'm probably gonna do here is just start to pipe, leaving a little bit of room for like a decorative edge. I'm gonna make this just a little bit thicker. And then what I think I'm gonna do is just make some little scallops, if you will. I think I'm gonna grab a spatula here. I'm going to actually spread this a little bit in between all of those little scallops I made, just to make sure it's a bit more structurally sound. All right, there we go. I just made 4 layers. You can make more than that if you want, but like I said, I've never done this before. I'm just starting small, so we're gonna get these into the oven. So we preheat the oven at 300 degrees. Get it there. We're gonna stick these in the oven. As soon as they go in, we're gonna drop the temp back down to 200, I think it was at 250. 250. So yeah, we're gonna preheat to 300, get it into the oven, drop the temp down to 250, and then we're gonna bake it 1 hour. We wanna make sure that they are crisp and fully dry. They should not be wet or sticky. You should be able to lift it off without it sagging, but be gentle. It's gonna be super fragile until it dries out. Then we're gonna turn the oven off after that hour, and we're gonna leave it to fully cool in the oven, at least 3 hours. It says you can leave it longer or even overnight. It says during this step, the outside of the pavlova dries out and it becomes more sturdy, so that it won't collapse as much on you. There's an art form to this. It might crack, it might not be perfect, but it's okay. It'll be just fine. So I'm gonna get this in the oven and then we'll start working on some other things. So I just realized something in my planning here. I made a really poor decision by doing this first. I'm realizing I can't do anything else until this pavlova's done because I can't use the oven. So we are at a standstill. I'm gonna go about my day and do some other things, and then when that's actually done, you know, sitting and done cooling off in the oven, we'll work on something else. All right, it's been an hour. I went ahead and I made a bigger bottom piece. I had the extra, so I figured why not. So, can you hear the tapping? It's dry on the top. It sounds a little bit hollow. And then if you try and pick it up very carefully, because it's still fragile, like you can lift it up and it doesn't sag. So that's good. Now I'm gonna turn off the oven. I'm gonna leave these in here to cool down completely, about 3 hours. Okay, we're finally back in business. We're gonna start working on the cinnamon rolls. The pavlova are still in the oven. However, I need some time for this to get mixed up and to rise anyway. So by the time this mixture is ready to go into the oven, I'm thinking the pavlova should be cool enough to take out, hopefully. So we're gonna start by mixing a cup of warm water with our yeast. And this recipe I'm using calls for a packet of dry yeast, which is 2 1/4 teaspoons. So I'm gonna get that in here with the milk, and then we'll mix up the rest of our dry ingredients while we wait for this to activate. Usually about 5 minutes or so. So 1, 2 1/4. For the rest of our dry ingredients, I have 4 cups of organic all-purpose flour in my stand mixer bowl. To that, I am going to add a 1/4 cup of sugar. I'm using raw organic cane sugar for this one. Then we're going to add in some spices. We need ginger and cloves and cinnamon. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon going in. Then we're gonna do a teaspoon of ginger. And 1/2 teaspoon of cloves. And then I gotta grab some salt. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna mix this up, it'll just combine. Next I'm adding in a stick of butter. For the most part, room temp, it's a little bit melted. I had it by the stove. I'm also gonna add in a 1/4 cup of molasses. 2 eggs. And then our yeast mixture. I don't know if you can see that through there, but we've got some activation, some bubbles going on here. So all of this, and turn my light back on, all of this goes in here with all of our other ingredients. We're gonna get this all combined. I'm gonna let the mixer do the work for me. Allow this to knead for about 6 to 8 minutes. This guy has been going for about 6 minutes now. I think it looks pretty good. And get it off the dough hook here. I'm gonna cover this bowl, and it is going to rise for about 1.5 hours. Meringue is finally out of the oven. I'm still waiting on the dough to rise. We're gonna move on to the third one here. We're gonna make this puff pastry Christmas tree. I just purchased puff pastry from the store. I did not have enough time allotted to make my own homemade, but I plan on doing that here in the near future, as well as some croissants that I'll probably make a whole bunch and put in the freezer. So at some point we'll get to that. Today we're just using store-bought. So we're gonna use both sheets. And I am going to roll it out just a bit more than what it currently is. We're gonna try and lengthen it a bit. I think you guys can see here. If this matches this one. Yep, that's perfect. Okay, that's all we need to do with the dough for now. Here I've got some of the garlic scape pesto we made back in one of my preservation videos over this summer. So I'm gonna apply this here to this puff pastry. I'm probably just gonna add the whole thing. Spread that all around. Smells so good. So we got a thin layer of our pesto. I'm gonna dollop in a little bit of ricotta cheese. Spread that around too. Whoops. Probably about a 1/4 cup's worth. Probably gonna get a little bit messy here. I'm gonna add a little bit more. Probably twice that much, so maybe more like 1/2 cup. Okay, I'm gonna take some Parmesan cheese, sprinkle that in here. Now we are gonna start shaping our tree here, cutting away some of this puff pastry. I tried to cut away as little as possible, but anything that I did cut off, I ended up baking, and my kiddos ate that for a snack. So the first thing I did was cut out the stump at the bottom, and then I cut the top of the tree here. And I didn't worry too much about having it come to a nice point at the top. You can kind of finagle it a little bit, you'll see here in a moment, so that it looks a bit more pointed. And I am going to add a star to the top of this tree. So then we're going to cut some slits on each side, leaving about 2 inches untouched going down the center of the tree. And you want to make sure that they are even, cut straight across from one another. And then we just start to twist. I did about a twist to a twist and a half per layer. Mixed up some egg wash here. I'm going to brush this all over. We will bake our tree at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. Our cinnamon roll mixture is ready. So we're gonna get this punched down and divided into 2 portions. I have about 5 tablespoons of butter here, room temp, mixed with about a tablespoon's worth of molasses that we're going to spread over our dough. So this isn't going to be made like a traditional cinnamon roll. We're not rolling it up. We are just going to roll out each portion into a circle of the same size. We're going to get the butter spread all over our first round here that I have placed on a parchment-lined cookie sheet. And then we're going to add about a 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup of brown sugar. Sprinkle that all over the top. And then to that, I just did a sprinkling of cinnamon, maybe about a 1/2 teaspoon or so, somewhere in there. After adding the top layer, I'm just going to stretch to make sure that they meet at the edges, crimp them just a little bit, and then you want to find something as a guide to leave about 2 to 3 inches untouched in the center. And then we're just going to cut directly across from the previous cut. We want to make sure that we have an even amount of strips here. We're going to take 2 of those strips at a time and twist them away from each other a few times until it looks the way you want, and then we're going to pinch at the very end, repeating that process all the way around. I'm going to remove the guide here in the center, throw a towel over it, and allow these to rise for about another 45 minutes. Time to work on the orange curd for our meringue tree. So I only had a bag of cuties in the house, so that's just what I used. I think 2 to 3 normal size oranges would work. You want to zest them. You need 2 tablespoons worth of zest, and you need a cup of fresh squeezed orange juice that I put over onto the stove in a saucepan, and we're going to bring that up to a boil, back down to a simmer, allow it to simmer until it is reduced by half. So in my mixing bowl here, I have 5 tablespoons of softened butter, a 1/2 cup of sugar, 2 of those egg yolks from earlier, 2 more whole eggs, pinch of salt, and I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And then the last ingredient is the orange juice that we allowed to reduce by half. Brought it over right from the stove, so it hasn't cooled very much, still pretty warm. We're going to add it in slowly so that our egg mixture doesn't curdle. Once everything is well combined, I'm bringing it over here to a saucepan that has about 1 inch or so of water that is simmering. You want to make sure that whatever pot you're putting on top does not touch the water. You want there to be a space in there. And I'm going to continually stir this until it starts to thicken to the point of where it will coat the back of a spoon and you can draw a line through it. I don't know if you can tell, it's late at this point. I really set myself back by my poor choices earlier today. Anywho, transferred to a a little bit bigger of a dish so it would cool a little quicker. As it cools, it will thicken up. So I'm gonna stick it here in the fridge, and then I'm gonna clean up a little bit, and then we'll get to making gotta find room in here. We'll get to making some whipped cream. I'm gonna make some icing for the cinnamon rolls, and then as soon as this is cool, we'll get to assembling that Pavlova tree. I'm really excited about it. We're gonna get the gingerbread snowflake into the oven at 375 for about 25 to 30 minutes. All cleaned up. Time to start the whipped cream. I'm probably gonna add half a pint. I don't think I'll need much more than that. Half a pint of whipped cream, or not whipped cream, heavy cream. I'm getting tired. I'm gonna start stumbling over my words. I'm gonna get this whipping over medium speed. Just a little bit, start to build some structure, then I'll add in about a 1/4 cup's worth of sugar and a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, and then let it go until I get some stiff peaks. Whipped cream's all done. I hope I have enough. I'm not sure if I made enough. I hope I did, because I don't feel like making any more. So let's make some icing for this gingerbread snowflake over here. You could make cream cheese icing. You could just do a buttercream. I am just gonna do some powdered sugar here with some maple syrup, some cinnamon, and maybe a little bit of vanilla. And I'm gonna leave it at that. And I don't really want to have it ice the entire thing. I just want to drizzle over the top. I think I might take a little bit of powdered sugar and sift that over the top. I think that might look really nice. So I probably have a cup of powdered sugar. I'm gonna sprinkle like 1/2 teaspoon's worth. Cinnamon. Got some vanilla right here. Just a little bit. And grab some maple syrup out of the fridge. And that goes in here just enough to get it to the right consistency where you can drizzle. Got some icing ready. Let's get it onto our cinnamon roll. All right, my friend, it is time to start assembling this Pavlova Christmas tree, or meringue Christmas tree here. So I am just doing one of the meringues, a layer of whipped cream. I went a little scant on the whipped cream at first. I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough, but looking back, I wish I would have put a thicker layer. It needed some more height at the bottom. And like I said, it was getting late, and I wasn't having a whole lot of patience with this orange curd setting up. It set up a little bit, but not as much as it was going to, so got a little hasty here. Just decided to use it, and it is what it is. So I just put a thin layer of that on there. It's pretty sweet, so I didn't want too much. And then we just continued this process of layering pavlova and then whipped cream, orange curd, and then I decided to roll some cranberries in some of the raw organic cane sugar, and I did the same with some little sprigs of rosemary to decorate it. Now, if you are feeling adventurous and you want to give this a go, you can most certainly make each of these 3 components ahead of time. If you're in a cooler region, you can make the meringue part up to 48 hours in advance. Do not store it in the fridge. It will turn to mush. Just store it at room temp. If you're in a warmer climate, you could do this like 24 hours in advance. That would be fine. The whipped cream, I wouldn't make too far in advance. It will deflate on you. If you don't want to make homemade, you could always just go grab some Cool Whip. You can also buy orange curd at the store too if you don't want to go all out. But if you do go all out, you can make the orange curd like up to 3 days in advance and keep it in the fridge. Overall, I'm glad I gave this a try. I wish I wouldn't have been so tired because honestly, it wasn't as much fun as I thought it was gonna be. But when you're tired, not much is a whole lot of fun, and it didn't end up being my best work, but I still think it is lovely and it tasted lovely. The meringue is honestly kind of like a crunchy marshmallow, so my kiddos liked it too. Friend, thanks for hanging out with me. I always appreciate you taking some time out of your day to spend with me. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments which one of these you would most want to try. Don't forget to go and give this video a thumbs up. I appreciate you all so much. As always, you can find all of today's recipes down in the description, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions down in the comment section. One more thing before I sign off, I am going to do a Q&A video before the end of the year, and I have a post over on the community tab here on YouTube where you can leave all of the questions you'd like me to answer. So go ahead and check that out, please, and thank you. Friend, you have a blessed day, and I will see you next time. Take care.